I get this message a lot on this account, and it makes a lot of sense, even though this isn't really the right place to be doing it. So go whine on Friendly Geordies, all right? Nonetheless, for the views, here we go. More Friendly Geordies whining, contaminating this perfect vat that I tried to keep clean. But everyone always says, I feel bad about the direction of the country. Well, the reason that you're feeling bad about the direction of the country and I'm not is because I do something about it. Thanks to your help, sign up to Jordan Shanks and Friendly Geordies. Sign up to both. But the reason that you feel bad about the direction of the country is because you are not utilizing your personal power. Because the thing is, once you have the knowledge in your mind that, no, I'm contributing, that alleviates that guilt entirely. The people that are always saying, everything's fucked, both major parties are fucked. First of all, every time I see that, complete nincompoop, there's a dead giveaway of that. There's two things every single time. They're always just like, Labour, and Liberal are both corrupt. You are just choosing teams. It's just, look, there's a certain level of consciousness of everyone that the lowest form. Let's just go through this because this is actually a self-help principle, right? The lowest form of consciousness there is that everyone sucks, including myself, and that is all I see whenever I see anyone go, you don't talk about the bad things that Labour does. I always think, you're down there, aren't you? You wake up in the morning and think, oh fuck, it's going to be a struggle. Where's my bus ticket? Fuck. There's that level. Yeah? The next level after that is, I'm awesome and everyone else sucks. That's the next level of consciousness. Yeah? Because at least you're dragging yourself out of it. The next level is, my team is awesome and everyone else sucks, which, let's be honest, is where I am. And then the next level of consciousness is just like, how do we bring up everybody? Yeah? One day I think I'll get there. One day. But I'm too bitter, I think, as well. I've got that real Kevin Rudd streak in me of just like, I'll fix their fucking wagon. But what's happening there, the reason that you feel that the country's going in the bad direction is, yes, it is. It absolutely is. But the reason that it is because of that classic old quote of, evil triumphs when good men do nothing. And that is because, really, the amount of impact that you can make, especially over a lifetime, phenomenal. If you really started to apply yourself and started to think of avenues of how to improve the surrounding community around you, even if you just start up gardens, even if you just start planting flowers so bees have some sort of pollination around them, which is something that I'm really into at the moment, which is just setting up small gardens so that pollinators at least stay alive, even with all the insecticides that are constantly getting pumped into them in the countryside. At least those genomes are protected in cities. Keeping that ecosystem alive. That's what I'm into at the moment. And the reason that I'm into it again, because you can do something about it. Another thing that is very easy that you will be able to do is, say that you live in an apartment, you go to your strata meeting manager guy and you say, hey, can we turn that barren desert land at the top of our apartment into a garden? You do that, you've just created a new ecosystem. A landing ground for birds. Weirdly, fish start growing in there if you put a pond in there. I don't know how the fuck they get up there, but they do. And insects, all of that stuff, done. Another positive attribute that you have donated to the country, you're welcome. As well as reducing your own power bills. There is a bunch of stuff that you can do on a local level. The reason that I do these on a Friendly Geordie scale, and the reason that I'm always pointing these things out, is because I'm trying to counter the narrative. And I understand that it feels very debilitating because you are starting to look at things that are beyond your control and scope. But it's not beyond my control and scope. Yeah? It's not beyond our control and scope. When I've got my researchers and I've got my editors and all of those people, and they're all working together to do that, it is because we are trying to counter a massive narrative that needs to be countered. When it comes to you, you could be focusing on something smaller, and the whole thing is that once you start focusing on smaller things, the economics of the situation start to change. That is how everything always starts. It starts on a grassroots level. It's the same thing with me. The reason that there is a counter narrative to the mainstream media of Liberals awesome, Labor sucks. The reason there's someone there going, no, it's the exact fucking opposite. The exact opposite. And you won't find it anywhere else. If you're being honest with yourself, there's always idiots that say, oh, what about ABC and SBS? Go look at their coverage. It is just pro-Greens and pro-Liberal. And the reason that it's pro-Greens is because that cunty face of the opposition becomes the Greens as opposed to what the vast majority of the country is, which is the Labor Party. The Labor Party should be the party of tradies and fucking, people that work in retail, and the average person should be behind the Labor Party. The Greens is, if you go look at it, the wealthiest voting bloc in the country. It is for people that just are like, I don't like that the Liberals don't like climate change. It's for those people. Yeah? And then the Liberal Party is just got all the propaganda around it so it can just go to whatever the fuck it likes. But its natural voting ground, obviously, is pretty much just Malcolm Turnbull and mining magnates. That's who it represents, but it's able to trick half the country into representing it. That's why I started focusing on that. So when you see that, you're thinking that's debilitating. I don't want you to think that. I want you to think, and this is why I set up Jordan Shanks, I want you to first off start focusing on yourself, and then I want you to focus on your family, and then I want you to focus on your community. And I want you to develop an environmental consciousness, because I think that that's the most important aspect of today, is that. So that's why you are feeling debilitated. Focus more on these videos as opposed to those videos. Those videos are pretty much there to give you ammunition to again change the trajectory of the country, because the best thing that you can do, the absolute best thing, hands down, this is from somebody who did a degree in politics and has been studying it obsessively for a year. The best thing you can do is convince one person you know to vote for the Labor Party. Then there's all these dickhead philosophers, because this is the other thing that I love about self-help. Self-help teaches you to look at life as to what is useful. It is useful to get a government in power that has a proven track record of giving us the best managed economy on earth, was trying to give us the tools to succeed in the future of broadband. It's such a revolutionary thing that, like what Kevin Rudd was doing. Broadband was the 19th century equivalent of building rail. That's how integral it will be to the infrastructure of the 21st century. He was trying to give us that head start after saving us from the global financial crisis. That's just 2 years of the Labor Party. Should have been voted in just on saving us from the global financial crisis. But then he was crazier than that. He did that. He said, no, we're going to try and tax mining companies so we actually get some of the wealth from our own minerals. There's a revolutionary idea. And then, on top of that, was making us the green engine of the planet. That was what his vision was. You look at it, and under Rudd's reign, and then continued on by Gillard, Australia was becoming was a top 10 investor on the planet for renewable technology. Because they just put so much money into development and research, giving out the grants so that people could start developing this, because they understood. They looked 20 years down the track and they thought, oh, okay, if we start doing this now, we're going to have a natural advantage over the rest of them, because the rest of the world is struggling with the global financial crisis and we have that little in. That's how important it is to have a Labor or Liberal government, because what did the Liberal government do? Because it fucked with Murdoch's investments. One fucking guy. This is what you're up against, right? This is the comparison. One guy gets up, Rupert Murdoch, and says, this fucks with my Foxtel investment. There you go. That's broadband out the fucking door. Now we have a broadband that's worse than Kenya's. Hugely handicapped for the rest of the century. The next one, I'm actually on the board of Genie Energy, so we're not going to be doing that. All investments into renewables gutted. All action on climate change gone. Put aside the horrendous environmental track record of the Liberal Party. This is what I'm saying, right? So there's all these dickheads, and usually the things that they always pick up are press-manufactured outrages. Like the same thing with, I'm doing a video on it at the moment, right? But Daniel Andrews with IBAC. Oh my God, IBAC. What happened there? It was just that Gladys Berejiklian got caught out with ICAC, and the press just went, how do we fucking divert attention? Oh, okay, Daniel Andrews is guilty too. You go look at the details of it. It is someone in his ministry that may or may not have hired one of their staff members to sit there and just do little Labor Party games instead of working on the state. Now, yes, that is a misappropriation of public funds, absolutely. How tiny is that in comparison to Gladys Berejiklian potentially giving out tens of millions of dollars of grants just because she's fucking someone as the Premier, and turning a blind eye to them saying, oh, I'm going to get all these development things across, and I'm going to use your government to get those development proposals across that I'm profiting from, even though they're not going to go through the normal track of just like, is this a good idea or not? I'm sorry, it's not the same at all. The whole point is that the press is trying to constantly conflate those two together. It is a complete lie. And then the other thing, the other way that this is always getting attacked, the other way that the Labor Party is always getting attacked is that there is a bunch of fuckwits online, you Reddit cunts, they're all, like, go look at them, they're always disgusting to look at every time. Just complete slobs that you can tell have no fucking friends whatsoever, and they sit there and they just go, Greens are better, or like, this specific fucking little dickhead party that I have. And it's because that is a party that is targeting its message to that specific type of person to get that specific type of person to vote for them. And the problem is that all of these minor parties, and everybody always just goes, oh, the Greens, what about the 80% going to preferences? Yeah, well, 20% don't. 20% don't. And that 20% was the difference between Bill Shorten, who would have given us a helicopter fleet that would have helped us out in the bushfires, as opposed to a guy that fucked off and used your funds to sit there and talk about how fucking awesome he is during the bushfires instead of fucking helping. That was the difference. That 20% of votes right there. But the other thing is that, like, look, because they're constantly campaigning against this bloc. This is something else that you need to understand about general politics, right? Ever since there's been a parliamentary system, there's this bullshit idea of just like, oh yeah, there's minor parties and they all come together. But yes, what is happening in that when minor parties come together? They're creating a bloc. There is a bloc that represents the oligarchy. There is a bloc that represents the working class. You go into countries, I suppose, like the US, where it becomes a little not as down the line because it's just been so corrupted, I suppose, in that situation. But still, the Democrats obviously represent the general public so much more than the Republicans do, right? There's those two blocks that exist. Everybody always says like, oh, we need a revolution. Dude, what happens in that revolution, right? That party disintegrates and another party comes to the forefront, but there's still those two blocks that exist. Yeah? So the whole thing is that these other blocks, like UAP, Pauline Hanson, Greens, all of them suck votes from this alternative block. That still, despite all of that propaganda, despite all of those dirty electoral tactics, still gains the most amount of votes. And there is a reason for that, and it's because the country has always been built by that party. Always. You would not have running sewerage if it wasn't for that party. That's what I'm talking about. Nothing gets done under the Liberal Party. What your job is, and this you really need to pat yourself on the back if you have done this, and this is something that I'm going to be talking about on the main channel as well, but I just want people to give me notes on this at the bottom here. There's two things actually that I want from this. I want you to write down any books that you think were life-changing. I want you to give me that because I want to start just paying a researcher to read those books because I just don't have the time, and then you just give me the gist of it, yeah? So I want you to write down any life-changing books that you've had in the past, and the other thing that I want you to do, if you're one of those despondent people being like, I'm scared about the direction of the country, change it. There's going to be 20,000 people that watch this. 20,000 votes going towards the Labor Party could be the difference between them winning and losing a seat. All you have to do is convince one person to vote for the Labor Party. Doesn't cost you a dime. And then you can do other things as well, like Switchy Super, and we talk about all that in Friendly Geordie's account. But the whole thing is, this all starts with you, yeah? So if you're feeling despondent about the country, just write this. Just write this one thing down. What can I do in my life to slightly nudge it this way? Anyway, if you like that, make sure that you sign up to the Jordan Shanks Patreon account because you will get unlimited access, if you sign up to the Wayne Dye tier, to videos that are, I honestly do think this, life-changing. If your life sucks now, you keep watching these videos, it won't. I get stopped in the street now, constantly. Like every time I walk out, someone will stop me in the street and be like, thank you. Then again, I don't walk out that much. And look, let's be honest, it's not every time. But it does happen. It happens a lot. And the reason is because these videos are reminding you of what you already know, but somebody needs to do it. Somebody needs you to sit down and just just half an hour a week, just like, hey, focus on this idiot, right? And when you do that, like with the country, your life starts nudging in this direction. Do you want your life to start nudging in the right direction? Do you want to be a millionaire with all your dreams fulfilled? Because I swear to God, I have the answers. I really do. And they're behind that mystery paywall and it costs fuck all. Sign up. All right. I'll see you next time.